Welcome, and today I have two guests whose life's work sits on either side of the same question. What does it actually take for India's youth to become the asset of our demographics promise, rather than a burden we quietly fail to prepare for? Professor Shreekant Sambrani is an engineer and economist, IIT Bombay, Northwestern, Cornell, who has spent decades studying policy and institutions from IIM Ahmedabad to the Institute of Rural Management in Anand. His not so recent book, co-edited with Vijay Shankar Vyasji, India's Demographic Dividend and Youth Empowerment, is one of the reasons for today's conversations. It asks with real rigor whether the dividend we keep talking about is actually being built or just being assumed. Meenakshi Ramesh is the CEO of Pratham Education Foundation, an organization that has spent over 2 decades doing at scale in government schools what most policy papers only theorize. Her own journey with Pratham began as a volunteer in 2001, and her return to lead the organization now at a moment when Pratham's teaching at the right level approach has been recognized globally could not be more timelier for this conversation. And we are very fortunate that on some projects we are able to work closely with Pratham ma'am. I am responsible here for running NSBT in Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, and I'll say upfront, I'm not a neutral interviewer today. I have spent the last few years arguing in my own writing that Indian higher education has become very good at manufacturing credentials and not good enough at building capability. So, sir, ma'am, I'm going to push this tension at you now. So, the first one for you.
Okay.
Dividend is possible only when an investment is made.
True. Absolutely.
So, is India's demographic dividend still on track to pay out, or are we watching it decay into a liability in real time?
Maybe a question of semantics. It never was a dividend. We imagined it to be a dividend purely as a number, as a matter of statistics. There was a bulge in the middle from the 15 to 35 age group. We had a very large youth force, and we went by the great epithet that it was our demographic dividend. As you rightly said, a dividend comes to you only when you have made an investment. We never made that investment, and we should never have expected a dividend. If you were to give a dividend to ourselves, we will be depleting the capital, as is the first principle. So what has happened is, as you rightly said again, is that we don't build capabilities. We, as you said again, we manufacture credentials. I don't even say we create credentials, but we manufacture credentials. To use a Hindi term, we don't have vidyarthis, we have pariksharthis. As it is now very evident, right now, headline news in India is about parikshas and what happens.
Absolutely.
Headline news is about the education factories at Kota. Headline news again is about frustrations in young people, very young people, leading to suicides. That should make us elders hang our heads in shame that we are failing to listen to the young people. Gen Z, etc. are all fashionable terms. But I think we long ago stopped listening to young people. We pushed them into careers, what we thought as a career. And we said, you become a doctor. We started hammering that into the children from the time they were in primary school. We said, this is your goal, this is what you do. And if you don't get education in school, we will get you tuition. If you don't get education through tuitions, we will enroll you in classes, postal classes, tuition classes. So we built that up. And what did we do? As Harvard studies and Harvard professors have pointed out, we produce 1 million or more young people, graduates, with zero employable skills. And that is what we have done. So we don't have really, in that sense, we cannot say we claim a uh, demographic dividend. We have created that bulge. At the same time, we find that our older population is growing. For the society to support an increasing older population, the youth and the middle-aged population have to have enough earning potential. So we have on the deficit side, older population which requires support, and on the positive side, we have inadequate income generation possibilities. What happens is this. There is a great Indian automotive firm, I won't name it here. It's pioneering enterprise. The entrepreneur is a good friend of mine. I greatly admire him. He says he has no workers in factories. He has only engineers. He has diploma holding engineers. And I have told him not once but many times more that your diploma holder engineers are doing the jobs of what IIT trained turners and fitters should be doing. So you are flattering yourself by saying that you don't have workers, you have only engineers. With small difference, this is the situation that prevails everywhere. When we had a bulge in engineering educations and now all those institutions have surplus capacities, people don't go for education into engineering colleges. Very soon the 1,000+ management teaching institutions we have will also face the same problem. The engineers that we produce became coders in IT companies. And there is only so many coders that we can employ. And with AI, even that is getting threatened. So we have a problem that we are training people for yesterday's jobs, if at all we are training them. So therefore, this is a major, major cause of concern. We have forgotten somewhere the true meaning of education. And this is where organizations like Pratham are trying to build from the very foundation. And if that foundation is strengthened, and I will end my comment on a more positive note, that if there are Prathams and more Prathams, and if they try strengthening the foundation, perhaps a generation later, we will then have a dividend because we have invested today. As a good investor, you should know that you cannot always say that there is a grey market premium, so IPO, today IPO you have shares allotted and tomorrow you sell them and get a quick gain. That doesn't happen. If you want to benefit truly, you invest in a company like TCS many, many years ago, as I fortunately did, not with great deal of thought, and that keeps on paying you dividend. That keeps on maturing. The same thing is about human capital. Human capital, financial capital don't follow different rules. They follow the same rules. So you have to start investing in the fundamentals. And from the kind of response we saw in the smallest, poorest villages with barely literate mothers and grandmothers, the kind of education that they value is something that needs to be nurtured, and that will have to be nurtured if we want to say Viksit Bharat will be a reality someday. Not 2047, maybe 2077. But that is what we have to work towards.
Sir, Pariksharthi was an eye-opener, and you also completely removed the dividend question, saying where was the dividend? We are actually depleting our capital.
Yes.
And sir, you said about true education. And I would just like to add over here, I think in my last 3-4 years of experience, we also lack true teachers now.
True, absolutely true. Because who becomes a teacher in India? One who cannot find a job anywhere else. Present company excluded completely. I know you have had long and very rich experience in the industry. So there are many like that. But do we have good history teachers in school? Do we have good humanities teachers? Do we have good mathematics teachers? Those who cannot find a job eventually drift towards teaching. And with those teachers, how do you expect the young people to learn? Because those teachers are themselves not committed to education.
Yes.
So, you know, the rot in the education system has spread so far that I think I would say a radical surgery of some kind is required. And all this talk about new education policy, every 10 years we come up with a new education policy, which is the same repetition of tried, trusted, and failed methods. You know, with our development projects, we follow the same approach. With education, it is worse. In development projects, somewhere we can arrest the
Yes.
thing. With education, if that gets into the system, it is like introducing melanoma. Cannot do anything with it. So that is the thing. You are absolutely right. You know, we have to begin at the foundation, we have to also begin with teachers, and we have to have institutions. In Maharashtra particularly, those who were Sakhar Samrats at one time have now become Shikshan Samrats because they make money out of education. Education is a money spinning business. So that should not happen, but it happens. Everywhere you find that doctors who pay crores of rupees to become doctors. What kind of results do you expect? So it is not just the economic health, but our physical health also we are endangering. Doctors get trained in these medical education factories. They have inadequate hospital resources. So what kind of doctors do we produce? Our best doctors emigrate, and the US and the UK benefit from them.
That's brutally honest.
I told you.
That's the way we keep it, sir. Ma'am, Pratham's whole thesis for us, what we have understood in working with you, is that basic learning outcomes are the precondition for everything. What percentage of India's youth would you estimate are, and I'm using dividend ready, today versus simply credentialed?
So he helped to set the context.
Yes.
And I want to sort of spin that a little bit to say that I have been guided, mentored by Dr. Sambrani for good fortune of being mentored by him for well over 35 years now.
Indeed.
And I will say that with the gray hair comes a little bit of the brutally honest, a little less gray hair. I will say I still feel that yes, when we go out into the field, we see the young people that want to come forward and work, want to make something better of their lives. I feel like organizations like ours can also contribute in creating the soil and creating the atmosphere for this learning. But yes, when you ask about what percentage of these young people are ready to be taken to the next step of their lives, to be productively employed, to have the ability to, let's say, get into a conversation about a profession, have an interview, say, walk into the room, present themselves, talk about their aspirations, it's very low. It's really low. I would say maybe 1 out of 5 young people, barring the 4 or 5 big cities in our country, would really feel confident to be able to do this without adequate preparation. It's because they have come off the school system at a time where enrollment was the focus, not outcomes. And I'm not saying the credit goes to Pratham alone, it goes to many organizations like us that have worked collectively to support the government's focus that after a long time of focusing on enrollment, studies like the ASAR, the Annual Status of Education
Yes,
report,
yes.
we said it's not enough for these children to come into school. These children now need to be able to read, not just learn the curriculum. Because our belief is that if at second or third standard, a child is able to read foolishness, avidha, vanity, asmita, वो बच्चा तो कुछ भी पढ़ लेगा. That child will read a textbook,
बिल्कुल.
he'll read a cinema poster, he'll read a letter for his grandfather, she will read something that somebody brought home. So that literacy, that ability to read and assimilate what is put in front of you is really key. And from 2005, we've been doing ASAR, And in 2015, it really took on a little bit of this urgency, saying we need to focus on outcomes, we need to measure how these children are learning. And I will say that the national education policy that came out in 2020 really threw a lot of light and therefore resources onto this problem. And today, in fact, what we witnessed in the mothers groups, the Nipun Bharat, the Nipun
Mahila.
Maharashtra initiative,
Right.
is to say, okay, now this is a crisis. This is no longer the kind of situation ki अच्छा बच्चे आएंगे, आज पढ़ेंगे नहीं तो अगले महीने पढ़ेंगे. No, it is a problem that needed to be solved yesterday. So let's throw everything at it. Let's bring the mothers into it. Let's bring the village administration. Let's bring the district administration into it. And these are the kind of measures that show very quick results. Mothers are able to be invested in their children's education. And we saw mothers today who said, okay, my child went from third to fourth to fifth. A, I will continue to stay engaged in her education. B, I will make sure younger mothers understand the importance of this. There is a mother whose child is coming into grade 1. I will make sure she comes to these meetings. She questions the school. What is my child learning? What is next on the curriculum or the timetable? So that empowerment is becoming very, very critical. But for the children that are today, let's say 20, this didn't happen when they were 7 or 8 or 9. And there is a generation which, while he rightly says, we can't really claim that it's our dividend because we didn't invest in them. But I feel like we should not give up hope. We believe that our skilling initiatives approach really this gap with these young people. And we say we won't just teach you how to be a welder or a plumber, we will teach you to be job ready.
Yes.
And my husband has often said, and this has stayed in my mind, he says, we should look at skill, we should look at aptitude and then train for skill. If this young person, or attitude rather, let me correct myself, look for attitude and train for skill. If this young person comes in with hunger and say, I want to make my life better, I want to do something that will make my father and mother proud of me, you can put that child in any discipline and they'll pick up what it takes to be a successful worker, entrepreneur, a job creator instead of a job seeker. But we need to invest now. And these, the kind of initiatives we're talking about, getting them to be not just readers and writers, but add those soft skills, how to interact in the community, how to present yourself in a conversation, how to read and understand. That is where even AI is now important. There is so much that is available to them. How do they even tell right from wrong?
Yes.
How do they figure out this is information that's relevant for me? How do they understand that this larger social media is trying to play on their minds? They have to use judgment and understanding. Those are the kind of skills we need to give this generation which missed out in the school.
I will add one specific example. Yesterday, we saw the creativity lab that Pratham runs. In one place, there were carpentry tools on the displayed there. So we asked a young man who appeared to be about 14, in my eye judgment, whether he knew those tools. He knew each one of them.
Wow.
And there was a table on the side, which he had built himself using those tools. And we asked him to show us how he used them, and he did. He demonstrated them. And then they told us that in the village he helps people to do these things. So he's already got a set of skills. He's putting them to practical use. And this was his pure aptitude, as she said. And that aptitude led him to experimenting. And now it is leading him to entrepreneurship. One drop does not an ocean make. But we should not allow that drop to dry up.
Absolutely.
That drop needs to be preserved and led to be multiplied.
But so on one side, the Sakar factories, which you spoke about, Shikshan factories, creating factories of the credential.
Yes.
And on the other side, these factories which you are creating, the whole community, the mothers coming, the administration coming, the children coming. So they are all factories, but completely at different ends of the spectrum.
Exactly, exactly.
Sir, so does this gap between the degrees issued and employability show up in the labor market data the way it shows up anecdotally?
No, it shows up in the labor market.
Okay.
Because of, if you look at, forget the PF related data on employment, if you forget about all the government statistics that comes up, but if you look at periodic surveys of employment and so on, you see that what is the real creation of jobs. Like the Americans have, we don't have that system. Americans have every month how many new jobs have been created. We don't have that. We have it now with the periodic survey. Perhaps we will have it every year or every 2 years or something. And that data, I am sure, will show up that our employment generation of the positive kind, not just payroll entries and so on, is not adequate. This is my, it is not just gut feeling. This is my judgment, considered judgment, and I will stand by it. When this data comes up, if I am still around, it will prove me right.
Ma'am, what you just said, 1 in 5 can really go present, talk, communicate with confidence. We see it here. It's probably 1 in 10, what we are seeing it over here. Now, what we do, what we try to attempt to do, sir, let us say there is a bunch of students who have taken admission in an AI and data science program. You come to know after 2 or 3 semesters that they are not cut for this. They took admission into this, but they are not cut for this. What we try to do as an institute is then see what they are cut for. What is it that they could do?
Yes.
And we recently found an example that a few students of over there were deeply interested in agriculture.
Exactly.
Agriculture marketing, because they have that at home. They took this admission because of peer pressure, fads and everything. We have been able to find agriculture internships for them as a result of
Right.
that. But typically the system wouldn't allow it.
System does not accept course correction.
Yes.
Once the course is set, either you live with it or you die with it. Very few can change that role.
We experience this in a slightly different way.
Right.
But again, pointing to the same challenge. Many of the things that are traditionally strong livelihoods in India are not seen as aspirational. They are not seen as something that a doctor's son wants to be a doctor.
Yes.
But a farmer's son doesn't want to be a farmer. Farmer's son wants to go off to the city. Farmer wants his son or daughter to go to the city. Farmer wants his daughter to get IT job.
Yes.
Why? Why have we created this perception that if everybody decided they didn't want to be a farmer, what will we eat? Why have we created this miasma of wrong perceptions? This is not fashionable. This is not something to do. Even within the courses, trades that we offer, we are trying to tell these young people, the front office receptionist may well lose her job to AI. But there will never be an AI electrician. Aapka fuse jayega, AI will not fix it. Electrician will be a very powerful person. A mechanic will be a very powerful person. And the mechanic should learn to do his or her job using AI. But at the end of the day, that judgment and a pair of hands is needed. So this perception around what are good livelihoods, really, really, really we have to change. I don't know how we're going to change it. How do we tell children as they come out of 8th grade, 9th grade, that it's okay for you to consider doing a trade with your own hands? Can we help you test your aptitude and your whatever traditional knowledge you came with to see which way you could point you to? It's a big challenge. We're really struggling with that.
I'll just elaborate this further.
Sure.
She talked about electricians, carpenters, plumbers. You try to get a plumber if there is a problem in your house. You will be lucky if you will be able to get one in a week. Any city, I challenge. And what happens is, how do we train plumbers or electricians? Every plumber carries a jholawala with him, an apprentice. That fellow's job is to give the right tool and so on. And he learns on the job. And someday, maybe in 5-10 years, he becomes a plumber himself. That has to change, because that way we will always have a shortage of plumbers.
Exactly.
Very right.
You know, if you said the doctors would employ a jholawala with them and he will become a doctor someday, that doesn't happen. So why is it this? Because we consider a plumber to be an inferior job. But if you look at how much a plumber earns, hard work, every penny deserved, but he is not earning a small amount these days. He is earning a decent, reasonable amount. Yet, when I was completing our house, my mason, brick mason, skilled worker, earned a good amount of money. His son was helping him. One day his son didn't come. So I asked him what happened. He said, वो तो courier में चला गया. उसको ये काम पसंद नहीं है. Once a courier, you will never become an executive. I mean, your Zomato and Swiggy calls them executive, but it is in name. They are basically couriers.
Correct.
And how many couriers can you employ? How many watchmen can you employ? These are all the jobs that these people aspire to, and not craftsmen. So this is where we, not only at the upper end of the spectrum, middle class children, but even working class children, as Meenakshi said, no farmer wants his son to be a farmer, and I will support that farmer's view because he knows what misery awaits him. And so farmers cannot be faulted for their sons not wanting to, for not wanting their sons to be farmers. But a plumber's son should certainly aspire to be a plumber. Why not? And not only a plumber's son, his assistant, his assistant's assistant, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
But these are the things that we have systematically downgraded. Not just in our society, elsewhere as well.
Yes.
So, basic nuts and bolts of the system, we don't pay attention.
In our scriptures, like the Kathopanishad, for example, so there is this terminology of Shreyaspath and Preyapath. Shreyapath and Preyapath. And they say Preyapath is what I like, Shreyapath is what is right.
Right.
But it seems that all our policies and everything which is done, even the parents which come to talk for admissions, it seems to us at a broad level, it's all steered towards Preyapath.
Yes.
What I like, what is in fad, but really going to what is right is not happening.
But that is the fault of the entire society, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not just parents of the school-going children or college-going children. At all levels of the society, that has happened. And that is it's something that should make us all look internally. What have we become as a society? We are not Vishwagurus in that sense. We can never be Vishwagurus as long as we entertain that attitude. So,
let me move on, sir. Couple of more things. Ma'am, the teaching at right levels succeeded by abandoning grade level curriculum in favor of meeting the child where they actually are.
Absolutely.
Does higher education also need its own teaching at right level moment? Is redirecting a misfit student into a hands-on field project the same instinct at a different age?
This is literally $1 million question that Pratham grapples with, because we are working until the primary, as it's called, until grade 5. And every day, every time we have a session on thinking about academics, what to do, about what programs, we ask ourselves, what about the upper primary child? This is the 6th, 7th, 8th grades are now fashionably called upper primary. Right. In my time, they were called middle school, but it's now called upper primary. What happens to this child? If this child has managed to catch up to grade level reading and arithmetic, and I'm not saying that is the ultimate preparedness, but at least you go in with some arrows in your quiver that, okay, I can read, I can do a catch up. But what if you already were falling behind when you were in 3rd, 4th, 5th, but now you are in middle school? We think that the next big thing that Pratham should do, many others should do, is a kind of first catching up for these children and then a bridging. First, when the child has come into 6th standard, does this child even have the baseline that is required for 6th?
For reset there.
Yes, to help them to catch up. And then to help them bridge, because when you go into 6th grade, 7th grade, you're starting to talk about science as not just single science, but physics, chemistry, biology will come in. Then maths will become algebra and geometry. First of all, we have to have a deep think of whether this is even needed. Like, I don't think I've used trigonometry in my life after I finished 12th grade. Whereas what I need every day of my life is ratio, proportion, percentage.
Super.
Ratio, proportion, percentage is what I need to know in math. Why have we made math so scary? Sine, cosine, theta. Ye kaun use karne? I mean, those that love it, wonderful. The world needs mathematicians. But why does a child whose desire is to clear 10th standard with whatever marks or make his parents happy, why do I need to fight this differential and calculus if I don't have the right teachers? I don't have the right aptitude. I have never been exposed to it before. It's an alien thing that is sitting out there and scaring the daylights out of me. So one is to look at what is really relevant for middle school and how do we help these children catch up to 6th and then bridge whatever is needed till 8th. And then we have to have a relook at what is higher education, what can we help these children to let's say open their minds to the possibility of a trade versus going to a. There is education that is always needed at every level, but do we need for this person to go through 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, or would we like to nudge this person towards something that they are very good with? Like yesterday in the creativity club that he talked about, this young man would make a fine carpenter, and all done with his heart and soul in it, with so much joy. Can we nudge him to do a professional certification in that? Can we make him go to a lab where he'll be taught how to use these tools in a professional manner? Then he'll come out as a
become a
fantastic.
furniture designer.
Absolutely.
So, nurture him to that.
So in middle school, in upper primary also, what are the subjects that are relevant is really something that needs a deep think.
And on the contrary, what is happening if students get pushed through the school, come into higher education?
Assembly line.
Yeah, assembly line. So, assembly line.
It's unfortunate that they are made to do so much which seems to have so little joy for them.
I have a common question for both of you. If you could rewrite one paragraph of India's youth policy unilaterally, what would it say?
Think requires thought. Cannot answer off the cuff, really. I would say that making education a right is fine, it's tough. But committing to fulfilling that right, to creating conditions, just as you say that there is a right to food, and then you make sure that even if it means providing free food for 55%, 60% of our population, the country is prepared to do it. Is it prepared to do the same kind of thing with education as a right? So if I were to write one sentence, I would say the state shall guarantee the fulfillment of this right. State shall guarantee. That guarantee is important. And if the state does not live up to that guarantee, the state has no reason to exist. The government has no reason to exist. That kind of ironclad situation is required. Unless we do that, education, health will always remain on the periphery of our consciousness.
Which is happening. Which is happening.
Which has happened and which will continue happening.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
So much for me to learn from this. I don't even know how to exactly. How do I even add to that? But I was just thinking of a small example from our current work in our skilling portfolio. We are trying to work a lot with the ITIs. Again, all created with the right intent, but somewhere along the line lost in completely in bureaucraties. And Madhav, our founder, Dr. Madhav, co-founder Dr. Madhav Chavan, likes to say that the government should say that education is free and compulsory. Instead, we have said education is compulsorily free. Because of which the quality paradigm has been lost entirely. So I would like to use some of the wisdom that he has just shared to say, can we go and do this with what we are doing for our youth in, let's say, the ITIs, where we are trying to show them a direction for what they can do for the rest of their life, but with a little more joy, with a little more freedom to say, okay, come to this place, explore what the various things are on offer. Let's try and have a connection with the industry or the people that will offer you the employment that accompanies this kind of training, and then see what makes you happy. A little bit of flexibility, a little bit of ownership in how we do this for our youth would be wonderful. But beyond that, I think I really would love to think about this question. It really is one of those that
We cover.
She said the right thing again. The key word is one. Why we eat, not only because it is necessary for life, but we enjoy it. Do we enjoy education at any level? Today, when we met these mothers, young mothers, many barely literate, up to 7th standard, the one word that they kept on repeating, that this mothers group they enjoy. So education and enjoyment, you must take joy in being educated.
Beautiful.
So that does not happen today. Education has become a burden. And once you remove that perception of burden, that is when the true potential of education is met.
I think this was answered in some ways, but I'm going to put this as a last question. This city, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, we have billions of dollars of industrial investment committed to this city in the next few years. How should institutions here, educational institutions over here, now prepare themselves, cope up to ensure that the people who are growing up over here, people who belong to this city, are able to catch that wave of employment or entrepreneurship will also emerge because
Correct,
of all
absolutely.
these industrial investments. How do we as institutions, what do we do as institutions? What are the three important things we just need to do without compromising so that that happens?
I'll let Meenakshi answer first so that I have the pleasure of saying the last word.
I think some of what we've been discussing is truly a step in the right direction. In that this has to be a lamba race. It's not something we can catch up in a year, 5 years even. So along with the efforts that are made to, if I may share a little bit of what we had discussed, and that could be a little, is to one is use the industrial activity and use the amazing tourism and hospitality potential of this incredible city, a lot of which people don't even know. I have come here, this is my 5th trip. And yesterday my colleague took me to see the memorial place of the person who was quite key in its founding, Malik Ambar. So I'm saying there is so much potential in terms of tourism, in terms of the industrial growth. So we have to immediately look at who are the people that can benefit from this, whether it is enterprises. So tourism, cleanliness of the city, because people won't come unless you are able to give them the right kind of experience. How do we sensitize all the service providers in the city कि stations station या airport से उतरते ही उनको मत बोलो taxi and then you charge them 500 for what's really a 200 rupee ride. Every single person in the city will now want to have to be invested in that vision that we are going to ride on this $1 billion investment. I am a part of this city. I will not cheat the next tourist. I will not throw garbage on the road. I think it has to be a collective exercise. And on this side, for us to keep sustainably riding this wave, we have to start investing in our schools. I'm happy to share with you a model I came across a couple of days ago being done by another foundation. It's investment in the district schools all the way up to 10 in certain phases, like can we train the teachers? Can we introduce sport in the school as a way of children coming out more confidently, learning to play with the opposite gender, interacting between boys and girls? So then those children come into high school with a certain openness towards what do they want to do. They're willing to listen. That's a big challenge with our youth now, don't you think? They don't even want. I don't blame them. I feel like we don't give them enough inspiration and role models. So how can we teach them from history, from industry, from our own uh, knowledge banks? It's a long race, but I think that we must start with making everybody a party to this. Keep the city clean, treat your guests well. Let's have ways in which people can get around, make the city attractive, housing for people who come from outside to want to live and work in this city. And then, so they'll want to put their children into these schools. Today, the mothers' groups, the headmistress of the school was saying her school enrollment has gone up because they realize that teachers are more engaged. So it's a very positive circle that we can set into play. But we should start shooting on multiple fronts.
So Shreya Path at a large scale.
Exactly. You know, I will begin with again a personal anecdote. In my work in various areas, I get to know people whom I respect greatly. One such person was Godarani Parolkar, Marxist leader who worked in Palghar and Thane district where I once went to school, working with Warlis of that area. Very radical perception, worked very hard. I got to know her close to her end of her life and got to know her well. Her last conversation with me, she said, look, I have fought all my life here. I know my time is now over. I wonder, after all this struggle, has my Warli benefited one bit? And if I were to be honest with her at that time, I would have said, not much, ma'am. Similarly, about the same time, another area where I worked, Panchmahals in Gujarat, area of bills. There I worked with a person called Dayabai Naik, who was the right-hand man of Thakkar Bappa, whose name some of you may have heard long ago. And he also got to know me, and again, at just about the same time, we had a conversation. He said, all my life I have taught satyagraha and so on for my bills. Where are they today? Have they progressed one bit? And not comparing myself at all to any of these great people, I have made my little humble contribution or efforts in the field of education mostly for 55 years. Now at the close of nearly end of my life, I begin to ask myself the same question. Has anything made a difference? And until yesterday, I would have despaired. The last 24 plus hours has changed my perception. I have seen things here in one of the poorest districts of the country, in one of the more difficult regions to reach, among people who are at the bottom of economic ladder, a new awareness of education, a new inspiration, and that restores my faith. Now that has to be carried forward to the next level. As Meenakshi said, primary is the beginning. We have your industry here with their billions of dollars, and they know that the plants that they build do not give them dividends immediately. When Kellogg's came to India, the lady who was the chief executive, she said, I am prepared to stay here 20 years and take losses, but I will not give up. And she didn't. And today, cornflakes and Kellogg's are a household word in India. It is because of that vision or that endurance. Now, there is a company called Endurance, which is Sevak Trust here.
Yes.
Now, that endurance has to live up. Your industry has to show that endurance. Your industry has to make an effort in building on things that organizations like Pratham do. Now, you have also a unique crucible here, which is very rare, that you have both a Hindu history and a Muslim history.
Yes.
You have Hindu warriors and Muslim warriors. If you have Chhatrapati Sambhaji, you have Malik Ambar. So you have all these things and they coexist.
Yeah.
Build on that. So that another poison that is eating away at our society is contained. And that way you are in a unique position. We saw in one of the mothers group, two burqa-clad young ladies coming with their toddlers,
Yeah.
infants coming there. Now they have come out. They don't think what people like Owaisi will think. And they don't say that what Shiv Sainiks will oppose them. They have come to this. We saw here yesterday, last evening, little boys wearing their white kurta pajamas and skull cap running. We haven't seen them involved in the school activities, but the day they start getting involved, that is what your district provides that opportunity. You are fortunate, and your industry should realize that it is fortunate. And that, the corporate social responsibility, CSR work, should be more directed towards this and not just fulfilling a legal obligation. When that happens, you would have changed things. And it gives me hope that that can still happen.
There are not many conversations on camera which end with moist eyes. And I see those moist eyes, I think, not only here, but equally over there also. Sir, I think this short conversation with us, ma'am, I think, whatever we are trying to do as a small institute over here, we feel very encouraged, we feel very positive, we feel very fortunate that we are
Yes.
able to do something with you, hopefully something more concrete as we go
It's
forward.
my team. I always say
Yes,
if I have
with
seen
Pratham.
if
With
I have
Pratham.
seen far, it is because I stand on the shoulders of these people.
Yes. And a real privilege and honor that both of you are at NSBT today and you gave us a chance to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thank you
And
so
thank
much.
you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you so
sir.
much.
It doesn't happen every day.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
I have a lot of things to ask, but I contained myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.